you're in the process even now, making sure that your children know the pathway, right? Let's talk about your path, because the consulting firm is, the last couple of years you made that shift. Let's talk about where you started initially. So did you start as an actuary? You started as an underwriter first, or where'd you start from? Take me through
I started off thinking I was going to be an actuary. Okay. So dad told me, you're going to be an actuary. Like, cool, dad, I'm going to FAMU. I started college at 16. So I want to put that out there, because I think, although to some degree, there's mature 16s, I don't know if I could qualify myself.
Started college at 16. She's always late. Right.
Right. Well, but I want to mention that because the reason did my first internship at 17. So if you think about that, I'm still giggly talking, I'm going to go to get my nails done. I got money now. I'm an intern, right? So I interned with Minnesota Mutual, which is a pension firm in St. Paul, Minnesota. I thought I was doing it up, right? I'm talking, smiling at all the people. Hey, I'm here. They pulled me to the side. They were like, look, so as an actuary, you're doing too much talking. You're doing too much right? Yeah. And at that point, here I am 17, and I'm like, yo, maybe being an actuary is not what I need to be. Like, I had the acumen for it, but my personality was such that, look, I didn't want to be behind the desk all day, right? The role and the function of an actuary has changed in the last 25 years drastically, but that wasn't what I wanted, right? At that point, in my life. So I was like, I knew I wanted to stay in the insurance industry, but I was like, I ain't going to be no actuary. And I ain't taking these exams because it's 100 hours per exam. I probably like 120 now. Wow. And I went to FAMU, the best HBCU there. I was all about that life, that life. So long story short, I ended up going into underwriting. And I started my career off with the St. Paul Insurance Company, best underwriting training program. I did 20 years of medical malpractice. I was an underwriter, a large brokerage broker. So I did a lot of marketing around large healthcare systems and things like that. So I did that. I traveled, I relocated, 4 or 5 times across the US, and really created a proficiency around being, in that space. And I was trying to matriculate. So, I had the technical skills, at least what I thought were sound technical skills. And I'll explain that in a minute. And then I wanted to start to matriculate into leadership, right? So starting to manage people. And so I got this opportunity to go to an organization, to go to CNA, to be a regional manager in the medical malpractice space. But I will tell you, that is when I think my confidence got shook the most. And as a Black woman in an organization where you're told by people around you, you're stretch higher, like, I didn't really want you here, but, for the, almost like positive discrimination, like on 10, right? Like, you're just here because of your skin. You're just here because we needed some diversity kind of thing. And at the time, I had dealt with it, but it was not that blatant, right? And I just didn't know what to do. I was like, oh my God, like here I am, trying to survive in this. And you start to really question, again, your skill sets, right? Your proficiency. So that's where I said before, I thought I had, right? I was confident coming in, but by the time CNA finished with me, I was questioning everything about the original, the first 20 years of my development in this industry. And so, unfortunately, it did not work out at CNA. I think I made some great impact around leading people and gaining trust around, my colleagues. But I quickly found out that was just not the route for me, nor was it the organization for me. And I questioned my purpose. So here I am, a Black woman who, 20 years of industry experience. I knew I didn't want to go anywhere else, but what do I do now? Right? What do I do now? And so my dad, being Nigerian and being very much a proponent of the give back, right? So you stretch your arm back and you bring others forward, you bring the community forward. I knew I hadn't done that because I was so focused on my career, what I thought was the way I was supposed to matriculate in the industry, and really challenge my purpose and determine that I wanted to bring more people into the industry because I knew it was a good industry by large, right? And then there's some some sketchy people, but still good industry. But secondly, I needed to educate people, right? Like if I, what I knew I did best as a broker and an underwriter is educate my clients first, right? And granted, that was the healthcare space, but I wanted to educate like my people, right? Like if I couldn't help anybody else, I needed to help my people. And I felt being an agent was the only way I could do that. At the time, I felt that was the only way I could touch people in both capacities by being an independent agent. So I got my little box, packed it up from CNA, and I was like, deuces. Wow. But I didn't know what I was doing, right?
Okay.
I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, this is good. This is good because it's you say, hey, I'm going to step in this direction, but shoot, sometimes you get knocked out in the face. You got to bob, weave, and okay. Look. Okay. All right. So go ahead.
I was ducking, jumping over. I was doing it all because I was like, in my mind, I was like, I dealt with agents, right, for 20 years. I was a broker, not really an agent, but a broker, right, for part of that. So I got this. When I got asked questions like, where's your agency management system? Huh? What? I got this book right here. Right? Like, what's your lead generation strategy? I don't know. I'm just calling people. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so it really, I when you talk about scratch agency, that literally, I started from nothing. I didn't know what I was doing, but glory be to God, right? Like he kept putting people in my life that showed me and gave me a chance, right? Even if they were for short stints, I was able to get data and wisdom from them to better build my agency. And, a couple of people like Brent Young, who was like, you know what? I see you, sis. I know you don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to pull you over here. I'm going to pull you over here. I'm going to help you out. I'm going to contract with you. I'm going to let you have access to my carriers, right? And this is the beauty. And this is why I love what we're doing even now around, engaging and bringing Black solidarity together, because he said to me, he was like, yo, I could charge you, right? I could take half your commission, right? I could take half of it to cover, the cost around agency management, He's like, but I'm not going to do that, right? Because I see you trying to build. I'm going to take the bare minimum because you need that to scale and grow your business. Yo, who does that, right? Yeah. Who does that, right? And so that's where I think we need to look at it as opportunities to allow others to grow, because if he had not done that for me, I don't think my agency would have survived, right? And so this is where now I'm at a point, like I'm not a big agency, now that I got this consultant thing going on, I try to keep my toes in the water, and I got to leave it for that 18-year-old at LSU that's behind me, right? My son. But it sustains me, right? It covers bills, right? It allows me to do those two things, those two purposes I had around engaging and recruiting. So, I'm happy. But I tell you, sometimes we step out on faith, right? Because we know it's the right thing to do, not knowing what to do. And that's why if anyone is listening who is kind of in that situation, your network is so key. Build that network yesterday.
Absolutely.
Right? Because those are the people who you can call on to be like, excuse me, excuse me, I done messed up. How do I fix it?
Hey, listen, we're gonna have some calls after this. Let me ask you a question. So you said, hey, I left, you left CNA, you jumped straight in. Start my agency, boom, I'm jumping right in. Would you recommend that for somebody else?
No, not at all. Not at all. Okay. I would recommend creating, at least having, I don't want to formally call it a business plan, but I know people are referencing that, but at least understand kind of what you need and the strategy in which you're going to obtain it, right? Like I had no strategy, right? I just thought because I had 20 years of experience and because I knew medical malpractice, those people that knew me in that space, of course they would do business with me. Wah, wah.
Right. Not so much.
But not at all. Not at all. Right? So you have to recognize, where your strong suits are, have a plan for where you think you can penetrate. Because I thought I could get into the medical malpractice space, but there was no one like me in the medical malpractice space that looked like me. So when I transitioned from underwriter to agent, they were like, oh, wait a minute. You want us to do business with you now? But I'm the one who underwrote your account for 5 years.
Right.
And you saw me at every renewal. Like, what? And now you don't want to do business with me? So that hurt my little heart. And so, not that this is the case across the board. Let me just say that. But I found support from a business perspective in my community, right? And I'm not trying to say everyone has to stick to their community, but just for me, when I started to build my agency, I went to my people, and they're the ones that embraced me and have given me the business, right? So that I can grow my agency to what it is now. So my focus is now going from medical malpractice, big health systems, to minority-owned businesses. That's what I focus on.
So you said have a plan,
Mm-hmm.
have a plan in place if you are going to get started. Would you say maybe you should go to another firm and spend some time as a producer and then step out? Or is it okay to kind of do your own thing as long as you have put some thought into how you're going to approach, the marketplace?
Yeah, I think the latter, because I do think, like, I mentioned Brent Young. I'm not an employee of Brent's. We have a contractual relationship. So I think there's opportunities to structure your relationships in such a way that you don't necessarily have to be employed, right? But then you can still benefit from that partnership to get what you need to start your own agency. Again, it goes back to that plan. Maybe you feel more comfortable in the employment model because it guarantees you a salary, right, to some degree, whether you're doing a draw situation or not. But again, you got to think about just what works for you, right? And for me, I again, even though I stumbled and fell a couple of times at the beginning, I knew I didn't want to go into an employment model. I wanted to be able to kind of structure this independently. And so that's why I went more contractual and creating a relationship that allowed me still that access, but I could still be independent to some degree. But I also, there's captive opportunities, right? I just think you got to think through that. If captive sounds more appealing because, again, you're being given the capital, right? Because that's a thing. You need that money, not only, to cover expenses related to the business, but again, to cover your cost of living. You need resources, right? You need lead generation. And if you feel more comfortable that a captive situation is more, again, more comfortable for you, then go ahead. Right. And, maybe, 15 years down the road, you're like, okay, I'm ready to go independent because now I know the business. Now I know how to operate an agency. Now, granted, you can't take that book with you most of the time.
Right. There's always a trade-off.
There's always a trade-off. But as long as you know that going in, and part of your planning, going back to making sure you're having a plan, is like recognizing, okay, I'm gonna have to give that up. How do I plan to start a new book from scratch on my own? Then that's fine, right? Then that's fine. I think to your point, though, you need to have a plan, but you need to have a network. You need both. I don't think you can have one without the other personally.
Absolutely.
I just, whether that's being a part of the National African American Insurance Association, whether that's growing, a network of Black agents or Black underwriters or whatever it might look like in your discipline or in your geographical location. But you need to have people you can call on, regardless of what space or place you're in. I mean, even actuaries, right? That profession is changing so much to where, like I said, they used to be behind the desk. They were like in the dungeon. You never knew who they were. To now they're client facing, right? They're engaging, right? They're doing all sorts of things. So how do you get a better sense of what that is if you don't have a network to inform you?
Absolutely.